denial, anger, depression, acceptance, hope, moving on. It's been a pretty bad year for Mike Shinoda, but he's been facing his demons head on, and the future is looking bright. It's post-traumatic. Quite understandably, post-traumatic is dealing with a lot of the trauma that has faced Mike Shinoda in the past year. Obviously, everybody is aware that Chester Bennington, his bandmate and good friend from Linkin Park, of course, tragically killed himself last year. And while that's certainly a huge part of this album, it's not the whole story. Now, this is Mike's first solo album, and it's pretty much a hip-hop affair, though he was and still is, I believe, though he was, and I believe still is, the frontman of the hip-hop collaboration. Fuck's sake! Though he was, and I believe still is, the frontman of the hip-hop collaboration Fort Minor. And anyone who's familiar, fuck's sake, bit my tongue. And anyone who's familiar with Linkin Park and their music will know that hip-hop has always been a part of their sound. They, of course, did a collaboration with Jay-Z many years ago, which is a solid album, actually. And Jay-Z on his 444 tour, is it 444 or 444? 444. He's actually been closing a lot of the shows, or at least in part of the set, he's been including the collaboration of Numb Encore as a tribute to the late Chester Bennington. It's fair to say that Mike Shinoda is a pretty talented motherfucker. Not only is he a pretty goddamn decent songwriter, he certainly knows how to craft a song. He plays the guitar, keyboards, does the vocals, obviously. He's a producer and an artist, literally an artist. In fact, you can actually see a lot of his artwork within the sleeve of the album itself, and it's pretty damn solid as well. So, pretty goddamn talented individual. In this case, I think it's best to let the songs do the talking themselves, so I'm going to get straight into that. But before I do, I've got quite a lot of information from a Rolling Stone interview. I'll leave the link for that in the description, and I just wanted to read one bit of it before getting into this because I think it's quite important. Since the singer's death, Shinoda has learned that the mourning process is irrational. Nearly 50 years ago, fucking hell, it's windy. The winds, it is almost like nature does not want me to do this review. Why, nature? Why? Why battle me? Since the singer's death, Shinoda has learned that the mourning process is irrational. Nearly 50 years ago, the psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross detailed what she described as 5 sequential stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. She was wrong about one thing, though, according to Shinoda. The stages are not chronological. What do you mean by that? Explain. What do you mean? What's going on? I always thought it would happen in some kind of order and you could analyse it, he says. But they don't happen in order. And if your family or friends are feeling the same thing and they're all experiencing those different emotions at random in real time, that's where the chaos happens. Because one person is upset, one person is sad, one person is angry, one person is fine, and then they're affecting one another. That was part of the reason I wanted to do stuff on my own, to pull myself out a little bit of that chaos and have a little control over my own intention. I think that goes some way to explaining post-traumatic. There's definitely a cathartic album. I think there's something that Mike actually wrote in the liner notes. I'll put a picture of it up now, so you're probably looking at it right now as I'm just rambling on talking a bunch of shit. Now, as I said before, this is pretty much a hip-hop album. I very much enjoyed the production on it. Everything sounds very clean, everything sounds to be where it should be. I really like the instrumentation, I like the way everything sits and is separated. So for this, I'm pretty much going to be concentrating largely on the lyrics, because I think that's where the true lyrics lie. First up, and rather appropriately, we have Place to Start. From what I understand, the actual sequencing of the album itself was done largely in the order that the songs were written, which I think kind of makes sense, because you see that you see Mike's recovery, so to speak. The start of the album is very raw in terms of how Mike is feeling. Towards the album's end, we get more of a cathartic, a cleansing, a feeling of moving on. So I think it's actually quite fitting that the songs go in the order they were written. So yes, anyway, Place to Start is the first one. This has quite a dreamlike sort of intro, and Mike's vocals sound I wouldn't say childlike, but they've got kind of there's definitely a vulnerability to them, which I think is very fitting. Don't have a leg. Fucking flies. I'm in that spot again. I got bitten to fuck here last time. I'm moving on. I ain't having this shit. Only in England could be at the middle of the summer and my fucking feet are soaking. Don't have a leg to stand on. Spinning like a whirlwind, nothing to land on. Come so far, never thought it'd be done now. Stuck in a holding pattern, waiting to come down. Did somebody else define me? Can I put the past behind me? Do I even have a decision? Feeling like I'm living in a story already written. I think it's safe to say that I do not have the spitting skills of Mr. Shinoda, but please forgive me. And at the end of the song, there's featured a bunch of voicemails from friends of Mike who were offering their condolences, wishing him well, and so now offer him support and obviously be there for him, which is rather touching. But it's sort of kind of one of those weird things as well. Anyone who suffered through grief, it's nice to know people are there, but there's always that feeling of you're kind of going through it alone anyway. So yeah, nice start to the album. Next up we have Over Again. I'm not sure when exactly this was written, whether it was beforehand or directly afterwards, but this was written about the Chester Bennington tribute concert that took place with the full band, and they were joined by a lot of vocalists like M Shadows from Avenged Sevenfold. I know that Jonathan Davis, I think was it Gavin Rossdale from Bush? Bush. But this was written about that experience. It was a month since he passed, maybe less, and no one knew what to do. We were such a mess. We were texting, we were calling, we were checking in. We said we ought to play a show in honour of our friend. Well, now that show finally is here. It's tonight, supposed to go to the bowl, get on stage, dim the lights, with our friends and our family in his name, celebrate. And then on the chorus, it says, sometimes you don't say goodbye once, you say goodbye over and over and over again, over and over and over again. Seeing other people, seeing other friends, kind of reminds you that they're all going through the same thing as well. And as he said, you just, there's constant reminders. You let go, you get over it, and then things come up and bring you back again, and you're constantly getting over it. Next up is a song that I enjoyed very much, Watching As I Fall. Starts with hard-hitting drums and bass swells. Are they bass swells? Is that what they are? This has a real radio-friendly chorus, as does the majority of the album. And one of the things I really enjoyed about it actually is how sort of radio-friendly and well-constructed and pop-like a lot of the choruses and, well, the songs in general are, despite the dark lyrical subject matter. And I guess this one reminds us, while the world lost a music icon, Mike lost a friend. And although he's struggling with that grief, he's telling everyone that it's fine. A lot of bastards biting me again today. Really sick of this shit. Could have done this in my room like every other reviewer, but you decided to do a walking review channel. Ugh. Bastard horseflies. It is when I stand that they grab me. They're watching as I fall, they're staring as I go. I gave until my soul hurt and never told them so. They're watching as I fall to somewhere down below, but maybe I'm just nearly in one take. But maybe I'm just falling to get somewhere they won't. Yeah, I enjoyed this one a lot. Great song. Another great song, Nothing Makes Sense Anymore. Another one with a very poppy chorus that's in stark contrast with the lyrical subject matter. I guess this one's trying to make sense of everything after Chester's suicide. My inside's out, my left is right, my upside's down, my black is white. I hold my breath and close my eyes and wait for dawn, but there's no light. Nothing makes sense anymore. I enjoyed the use of vocal stacking on this one as well. Next up is About You, and this features Black Bear guesting on vocals. When he was writing this song, or at least thereabouts, he had the realisation that no matter what he did, no matter what he wrote about, in some way it would be construed as involving Chester or over his thoughts about that subject. And you know, that makes sense. Even when it's not about you, all of a sudden it's about you. It's worth mentioning that this, oh fuck that up. Even when it's not about you, all of a sudden it's about you now. Even when it's not about you, all of a sudden it's about you. Said earlier on that this was kind of written in the sequencing was done in the order that they were written. So I think you can see how he's going through the emotions. Start off with that raw pain, and now he's sort of starting to process things. I'm thinking of Yeah, he's working things out. Next up we have an instrumental track, Brooding. This starts out a very beautiful, atmospheric, ambient kind of a track, but then morphs into this sinister, darker, brooding kind of track. Yes, brooding. Hence the name, I guess. Very well done, Mike. I see what you did there. Next up is Promises I Can't Keep. Yeah, the instrumentation had an almost nursery rhyme kind of lullaby feel to it. I had so much certainty till that moment I lost control, and I've tried but it never was up to me. I've got no worse enemy than the fear of what's still unknown, and the time's come to realise there will be promises I can't keep. Yeah, another kind of radio friendly pop-like song, but not in a bad way. This is a guy who clearly knows how to craft a song. I get kind of pissed off with elitists or people who are like, oh yeah, but it's not heavy enough, or it's not this or whatever. A good song's a good song, and I think good songwriters should be recognised in whatever fucking genre they're in. Mastodon. Interestingly enough, my Mastodon top 10 will be up in a few days. Apologies for it taking so long. I was a little bit ill last week. And also I'd like to take this moment to thank everybody for my 1,000 subscribers. Got there eventually. It only took about 6.5 months. I'm pretty happy with that. There will be a giveaway video at some point. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to decide who wins it yet, but I will make a video about that and get back to you shortly. I assure you. Be assured. Next up is Crossing a Line. Judging by the wind, I'm crossing a line. This is kind of Mike, I guess, realising that he's, at some point he has to get on with his life, and maybe other people are going to have some resistance to that. You know, well, how can you have fun anymore after what happened? Well, that's kind of what happens in life. Sometimes you just have to move on. And they'll tell you that I don't care anymore, and I hope you'll know that's a lie, because I found what I've been waiting for, but to get there means crossing a line, so I'm crossing a line. I do have to say, as much as I love the lyrics on this one, I wasn't so taken aback with the music side of things. I actually found this one to be a little bland. Not a bad song, just not one for me so much. You bastard! I have descended to the depths to escape these harsh winds in a desperate attempt to continue this review. Again, a sunny day, my feet are soaked and the wind's batter. Appropriately enough, the next song is Hold It Together. Hold it together, Ben, for fuck's sake. Yeah, this one tells the tale of how he attended a 6-year-old's birthday party, I'm guessing for one of his children, and while he was there, somebody actually asked him or reminded him of Chester's death, and kind of how it kind of understandably made him feel quite uncomfortable. They say that they sympathise. I'm grateful they take the time, but bring it up at this 6-year-old birthday, it kind of fucks up my vibe. We end up on an awkward note. I make the most awkward joke. Too dark to be funny. I shouldn't have come. It'd be weird to go home. And I'm struggling. Once again, I truly applaud the way that he can make such a dark lyrical subject matter have such a poppy, infectious, catchy, hooky chorus. I applaud thee, Mike of Shinoda. Though I not know thee, I applaud thee. And I'm sure that means a lot to you. Ghosts! Ghosts! Ghosts is up next. Fuck off, you bastard flies. I know. There's lots of flies and bitey shit around, so why don't you come into a marshier, boggier area? They're sure not to be there. Mike says of said song, but there are things we don't know, and I don't have another choice. Oh no, that's the lyrics, twat. Ghosts is a metaphor for the unknown, things we can't see or touch, things that are a mystery. I say in the first line, this is not about a literal poltergeist. Poltergeist. This is not about a poltergeist, not about a phantom that glows at night. But there are things we don't know. I know, and I don't have another choice but an open mind. Oh god, I fucking butchered that one. There's a funny video with this one though, featuring sock puppets named Boris and Miss Oatmeal. I'll just read out a tweet that he said about this. I made a sock puppet video because it took me months to feel like I deserved to have fun. So I celebrated it, and I have no regrets. I wanted to make you guys smile. You deserve to smile. You deserve to have fun. I very much enjoyed this one, and I think that's a pretty right on statement that he makes there as well. You can prolong suffering for only so long, to the point where it's what's it helping? I know a lot of people like that. They hang on to pain, they hang on to anger, and in the end it just hurts other people even more. So do your suffering, do your grieving, and then move on. Because, you know, life does move on. And spread some joy if you can. It's not a bad thing, is it? Make It Up As I Go is up next, and this features K.Flay. I've never actually heard this artist before. It's a lady artist. But yeah, she's got a great voice, and it kind of helps change things up a bit, actually, adds something different to the mix. It's also worth mentioning this one was co-written with Brad Delson, guitarist of Linkin Park. I think there were 2 songs. The next one was one of them that he co-wrote with him. Part of what K.Flay sings is, I don't know what I'm chasing, I don't know who I am, so I make it up as I go. And she says in an interview, we were talking about how it's comforting to think that anybody knows what they're doing, but we're all inventing life moment by moment. That's a headspace I'm in frequently, and I think it was definitely connecting with Mike's headspace too. I think we can all relate to that. We like to think we're in control of so many things, but we're just making it up as we go, which is why it's called that. And why I've just been talking about this subject, because it was brought on by that. Next up is Lift Off, and this features Chino Marino of Deftones, of course, and Machine Gun Kelly. Now, in 2008, a bandmate of Chino's, Che Cheng, was tragically injured in a automobile collision, and he went into a coma, and he died sadly 5 years later. Horrendous story. Incredibly talented bassist, and the Deftones and Linkin Park were very good buddies, very good friends. Ugh. So understandably, Chino got in contact with Mike at one point. I think he left him alone for a bit because he didn't want to, you know, kind of let him process it on his own. But when they did eventually get into the studio together, there was a similar theme that they had. The main thing we talked about was, when do you start back up being creative again and feeling okay about doing so? Fucking flies. For me, as a listener to the music he's put out so far, I can tell he was dealing with that question. Mike is really concerned about people thinking that he's selfish for doing post-traumatic, but fuck that. He's a creative person, he's in the trenches. Whether people understand it or not, he's always the dude in the trenches. When they were doing One More Light, I went to the studio with him one day, and he must have had 40 or 50 ideas. I just sat with him and listened to some, and he's the guy who's always working. I'm not saying that other guys aren't involved, but he's definitely the dude who's in there. So for someone to assume he's not going to make music is crazy. Again, when do you move on, and how much are you just supposed to stay suffering and, you know, not being judged by others? Imagine me quitting, what a travesty that'd be. You space shuttle challengers are nothing but tragedies, so take care on the path that you're headed. I'm the father to your style, don't you ever forget it. I don't drop mics, only let it smoke where I said it, and I don't play even when they press it. Get it? Really love the inclusion of Chino's vocals. As always, as anyone who's listened to the Deftones, always expressive, emotive, very impressive. And Machine Gun Kelly, yeah, I've never heard him before, but yeah, his lyrics sit nicely in there as well. Very talented people all, and great song. IOU is up next, and Mike said of this song, I had a horrible year, and my friends told me once they heard me talking shit in a rap song, they knew that I was getting better. This is without a doubt probably the darkest sounding song on the album. Oh, for fuck's sake. God, Jesus. Do walking videos, he'll help you stand out. Friends like, Mike, I don't know who you are lately, but pride and hate has made naysayers mistake me for wasting brain space on ratings they gave me. I don't need your respect, I got history. I'm 81 Reagan with that nonsense, miss me. Father like Francis, Anakin or John Misty. Not to be touched, sucker, tell them, take an IOU. Nice change up in pace, and again you can kind of see how Mike's getting stronger. He's recovering, despite my god-awful delivery of his lyrics. Next up is Running From My Shadow, and this one features Grandson. And this is another one that was co-written with Brad Delson. This keeps resetting. What did I say? Where am I at? I'm at running from my shadow, Dad. Brad Delson co-wrote. Denial is a funny thing. When you're in denial, you don't realise it while it's happening. Maybe everyone else knows, maybe nobody. Maybe you figure it out later. Maybe you never do. This song isn't about one particular moment of denial for me. It's a blur of a few things going back many years. Sometimes writing a song helps to make me more aware of things that I actually think. The writing actually forces self-reflection, and the self-reflection leads to realizations. This is a really good one. Huge poppy chorus. on this one. Very anthemic. Could imagine this going down really well live. I'm running from my shadow, but it's still there chasing me down. I'll never win the battle, and I should have known it by now. Just when I think I've found the end, I'm going back around again, running from my shadow, but it's still there chasing me down. Penultimate song, we're getting there. World's on Fire. And this is Mike pretty much thanking the people who matter the most, the people who support him, friends and family, I'm guessing. Would make the most sense. When the world's on fire, all I need is you. I don't always think to say it, but it's true. When I just want to disappear, you're the one that keeps me here. The world's on fire, all I need is you. Don't need these fucking things. Yeah, this had some huge reverb-laden drums and some pretty 80s sounding keyboards. I really enjoyed this one, great song. And finally we have Can't Hear You Now. Did I look over there then? Can't Hear You Now. This song really ends on a hopeful note, with Mike giving a message to all the haters and the judgmenters. Some days it doesn't take much to bring me down. Some days I'm struggling for control. Some days it doesn't take much to bring me down. But right now I'm floating above it all. So you can call till your voice is running out, but I can't hear you now, can't hear you now. I'm somewhere far away where you can't bring me down, so I can't hear you now. I can't hear you now. I've seen some reviews where people have not necessarily slated this song, but said it wasn't a fitting close to the album. It was maybe a bit tepid and a bit bland, and I couldn't disagree more. I think this is the only way to end the album. That resolution, that final, that realization, actually, no, you know what, fuck you, I'm moving on, it's time. You got to. So that's the album, and I would give it an 8 out of 10. I thought it was a very solid effort. I think it's a cathartic album, and I think musicians and artists, that's what they need to do. They need to be creating, that's how they get things out of their system, and that's how they help others. So yeah, I thought this was a great album. The production was great, really clear, bright. Loved the way everything sounded. Not normally the sort of thing I listen to, but I had no problem with the music at all, and there's absolutely no denying that Mike is truly he's someone who's learned his craft. He knows how to put together a good song. He knows how to structure a song well. But it's the lyrics, really, that mean the most. And I think he's somebody who's wearing his heart on his sleeve. Maybe some of the lyrics will get under some people's skin, maybe some people will judge him harshly, but I certainly won't. I think this is a good solid album, and a good representation of the grieving process, which ultimately that's what this documents. I've got to go back up there now, fuck's sake. I could go that way, but that just means I've got to go all the way back round again. I've got to get home now, fuck's sake. Think, Ben, think! As I start my dramatic return. Yeah, so what have I got coming up next? Well, as stated earlier on, I did do the Mastodon top 10, but it is recorded and that will be out in a couple of days. And also, I've got a unboxing video that some of you may be interested in, and that'll probably be coming out on Thursday. Next week, we have the new 9 Inch Nails album, which I'm looking forward to. Who else is there? Something else as well. And also The Orb. I used to listen to The Orb a lot back in the early aughts, and well, in the 90s, I suppose. Oh, I was alive then, and very much of age as well. But yeah, so The Orb, might give that a go. Thank you to everybody who was subscribed. I'm now comfortably over the 1,000 subscriber mark. Wow. These flies are fucking worse than I thought. But yes, thank you to everybody who subscribed. I got there quite a lot faster than I was expecting to. And next stop is 10,000. Enough self-congratulating bullshit. If you enjoyed this, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you comment. And as I said, if you enjoy the channel, if you enjoy the channel, share. Why not let other people know about it? Spread the word of the bee. There's not bees around here as well, is there? I'll see you back in a couple of days for my Mastodon top 10. Make sure you've got your list ready. Make sure you're ready to comment on that one. And I shall see you then.